Getting into your mind, lost in. I remember you said earlier, like with your voice.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, this is like the third time I brought this up, but it's just so hilarious when you have like a singer and you hear them sing and then you hear their actual voice. You
Mhm.
know, like ki- when was that? Did you like have that? Like, who was the first person that gave you that moment? They're like, "Oh my god, is that really
That
that you
was
singing?"
that was Chris Bell because the engineer that I was talking about
Mm.
that was on my first record, he no, I didn't really let anybody listen to these demos that I was doing for my solo record. And in fact, when I was telling people that I was going to sing, they couldn't really even believe it. So it was kind of funny. But when he heard, when he, and it still happens today. Most people are like, "Is that you? Is that you singing?" Yeah, that's me.
What do you? I mean, I I remember we were talking earlier before. You were saying on how when you were a kid,
Mhm,
like hearing these pop stars like
mhm.
inspired you. Where do you think the strength to your voice came from?
Whitney Houston.
Really? Do you really think it's Whitney?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah. The first time I think my mom got the soundtrack to The Bodyguard, and I stole it, and I wouldn't give it back.
Nice.
I would listen to it in my room daily. That was my jam.
She was another level of a human being, and it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's so sad that we don't have her anymore.
I was I was saying that today. I was listening to, I Wanna Dance with Somebody, and I
I
was like,
want to dance with
yeah, I was
somebody.
like, "Damn, if she was still alive, she'd still be queen."
It's interesting of the people that inspire us as artists. Like, I can tell you straight off the bat, like one artist in particular inspired me the most is John Lennon.
Mm,
I gravitate, and I there's just something so true about finding a passion and being genuine and unique and like I want to do this.
mhm,
I want to do this and try something. And
yeah.
I mean, you making demos, you making your own tapes of your own creations, something you put together. How how was that for you?
Well, there's a big learning curve in it, of course, because, the good thing is that, if you buy a Mac, which I had a Mac, laptop, a little, MacBook Air. If you buy a Mac, you can actually, use just GarageBand to record things, right? So there's
I
a
learned this earlier this year, by the way. It's so
oh,
crazy.
yeah. Well, I had a friend of mine who was a musician, I was a hairdresser, right? So for 20 years, I was a hairdresser in Dallas, and so I knew everybody, and I had really good resources. So this musician friend of mine, who I ended up playing with later, he was getting his hair done, and I said, "Oh, I bought this new laptop," and he said, "Oh, have you tried GarageBand yet?" And I said, "No, I haven't really figured out how to use it." And so he just showed me how to take the loops and like arrange them, and I went,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
"Okay, okay." And in 1 month, I made like 17 songs.
Wow, that's dope.
And so I was singing on some of these songs, but I didn't really like my voice. Plus, I wasn't like into singing, I not like I was, I was trying to be a musician, but I wasn't at this point. I wasn't a musician. I wasn't playing anything regularly. I couldn't figure out theory at all. I was just knew how to do these loops, right, and it was fun. So another musician friend of mine came in to get his hair done, and I'd heard that he's putting a new band together with he had a girl bass player who's a notable girl bass player in Dallas, and so I thought that was really cool. Well, when he came in, he said that she wasn't going to join, and I let him listen to my demos. And without even playing bass, he asked me if I wanted to play bass, and he would teach me how to play these songs. And so that's how I got in my first band. So it's like I've been trying to do music my whole life, and then eventually, like, you get these breaks where it like shoots you in the one direction or whatever, you know.
It's a
Just
waterfall. I like to
yeah,
call
yeah,
those waterfalls. It's like smooth. You like you think it's smooth. It's a bit rocky. You're like, and then it's like, oh shit.
yeah.
There's a 10-foot drop like to
Mhm.
doom. But I think that is kind of the spontaneous, practical craziness and wackiness of being an artist. I mean,
Mhm.
you start off loving a guitar, and you're like, oh, wait, I like to do that. Oh, wait, maybe I should do that. Oh, wait, somebody just told me to do this. I could try that. And it just goes on and on and on until
Yeah,
you're like, yeah, I can do this. I can be a singer and an instrumentalist and a
yeah.
star.
Yeah, and I actually teach, at a School of Rock in Huntington Beach here in California,
Oh,
and
nice.
so I have anywhere from, like, seven-year-olds to 70-year-olds that come to me for, bass and guitar lessons, and I also am a music director for the shows, and I get a lot of flack from the students when I try to branch them out into other instruments, I feel like that's what they're there for, You should you should play as many as you can while they're offered to you until you find the one that you really, really like. Some people just stick to one thing. And
Yeah,
so
I
I
did
see
that.
some of these yeah, and I see some of these kids come in and, they're playing drums, but then I didn't realize that they also sing and play guitar. They also play bass. I'm like, "Wait a second. So why are you not telling us this?" You know? Like, come on. And then some of them who they only wanna play drums, and I'm like, "Well, start playing bass." And all of a sudden they're playing guitar. All of a sudden they're singing. So it's like, if you're gonna be a musician, be a musician. Like, learn it all. Learn everything that you can.
Basically be a sponge.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all encompassing, right? Though, I mean, music theory is over everything, and rhythmic theory as well. You have to use both of them. I mean, as a drummer, you use rhythmic theory. You don't really use a lot of harmonizing and stuff, but if you're a really good drummer, you do.
Well, it also depends on what type of drummer you are because
Yeah.
you have like, in the 80s people used to use electric drums, like
Mhm.
electric drum pads.
Mhm.
And there are people that with those you have to be very technical.
Mhm.
You have to know how to balance them, you have to know how to equalize them properly, you have to know where to hit and when.
Yeah.
There's different levels even within instruments.
Mhm.
So, I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you can play. I mean, all you really need is 3 chords and the truth, right?
Why?
So, you can be as simple or as complex as you wanna be. I think that if you can be complex with something simple, then I think you're really onto something. I think it's when you're trying to be overly complex where you can start losing your identity. Unless that is your identity, unless you're just a complex, musician, and you wanna play prog and you wanna play, as fast as you can. But what happens to when there's no real meter, What happens when you have to feel it out? Can you do that too, I just feel like that, you should
It's
you should be able
hard.
to do it all. Yeah, it's art, right?
No, it's even more difficult because when you are having so many things going on in your life, like work and bills and family issues and relationship issues and drama and yada yada yada. It's hard to be able to like even have the time to do the things you want. And then on top of that, do the things that you want and then want to work even more on that because we feel that I also like sometimes feel that you have all of this on top of you.
Mm.
but I don't know if necessarily that is even an excuse. I don't know.
It just depends, you have a lot of people that have a comfort zone, and you have a lot of people that really like to watch TV, or they really like to spend time with their family, which means that they don't really get alone time to work on themselves. And there's a lot of excuses. I just recently finally started going back to the gym regularly. So
Oh,
I'm
that's
in there
great.
almost every day going, yeah, I should have been doing this a long time ago, but I'm seeing how, just the just not making the excuse anymore is helping me to stay on track. And so I think that everybody needs that kind of no excuse mentality when it comes to something that's going to better themselves.
Yeah. I mean, because there is like this stereotype as artists, especially when you're in bands and you're performing, you still have to keep yourself healthy. Like, look at Mick Jagger. The man is in his, I think he's in his 80s, and he's
Yeah,
in great health. He's in great fitness. And it's because he takes care of himself. Like he goes to the gym, he has a fitness schedule, he has a way of keeping him healthy. Because again, like when you're performing, it's a lot. It's a lot of
yeah.
energy. Like, you also said that you were in the back end of things. So I can imagine there's a lot of things going on even before you're getting on the stage
Oh
in
yeah,
front of the crowd.
there's a lot of stuff. I mean that stuff is just like sitting down and doing emails, but um but as far as being on stage, I'm carrying a bass, and I'm dancing around and I'm singing. It's very, very physical. I'm not just standing there watching the show. I am the show, part of the show. And so I have to be in good shape. I don't know how some people get up there and do it when they're completely out of shape. I mean, I do see how they do it. They kind of just stand
Cocaine.
there, and there might be some cocaine involved. But as far as like staying healthy and giving it your best, you're as far as a singer's position, your voice is your instrument. And your voice, I don't know if you've heard, if I was actually making this comparison today. I was listening to something, and you could tell like these two women, they were around the same age, and one of them took care of herself all of her life, and one, you could tell, just couldn't. And just to hear their vocal cords, like how the sound comes out of their vocal cords. One sounds like it's in shape, and one sounds like it's not. And they're around the same age. They just have very different lives. So you can tell when you're tired. You can tell when you've been drinking too much, or when you're not taking care of yourself. I hardly drink anymore. I gave up, you know, drinking a long time ago. I don't really do it anymore. I do
But do you,
smoke a lot, but
cigarettes or weed? There's a difference.
weed. No, no cigarettes ever.
Yeah, I mean, I used to smoke, like I used to smoke cigarettes, but like I've been pretty much, I do nicotine. Like I should get rid of
Mm.
this shit, but I've been trying to like stick with weed. And it's, to be honest, sometimes it's just nice to just get a rush. I don't know if this makes sense. And sometimes it's good to get a rush, maybe in a little bit more of a healthier
Mm.
way. I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah,
weed is a great
yeah,
outlet, especially if you're performing. Like
yeah,
you're doing an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. What do you wanna do when you're done? You're like, "Ugh, I just wanna relax."
mhm. Smoke a
Right?
joint.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, if I do drink at the shows, at any of my shows ever, it's like 1 after, and that's it, like, right after, you know?
What's your poison?
I either like a shot of whiskey or a good beer.
Oh, wow, you're a real American.
I'm from the South.
Yeah, a real American.
I'm a real American.
Real American.
But yeah, I like a shot of whiskey. Well, and the like in my Zepparella band, we all like whiskey. But it's funny because we're also growing out of not drinking either. It's a tribute band, and they've been around for
A Led Zeppelin trip.
16. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I
yeah,
love those tribute bands. Oh my, some of them are
yes.
really good. Like they're
Yeah, yeah,
really,
yeah,
really good.
yeah. Where are you located? Where are you?
So I'm located in South Florida, but
Oh,
I'm
are you? Okay.
yeah,
My
but
parents my parents just moved to Navarre, Florida.
I don't know where that is. That
It's up
we
it's up in the Panhandle.
oh yeah, we call
Different
that the
part.
we call that the armpit.
The armpit, yeah. They
Yeah,
are in the armpit of
yeah,
Florida.
the armpit of Florida. That's what it's called.
That's it.
But my co-host, actually my best friend, she does American Groove. It's a Lost in the Groove segment. It's all about stoner culture. She lives in Los Angeles and she's seen some cover bands like Beatle cover bands. I think she saw a Rolling Stone cover band.
Mhm.
But what is like your experience with? Am I saying it correctly? Zepparella? Uh,
Zepparella, yeah.
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 Like, how's it been? Like, has it been for them? Like, how has it like been for them as a band and your own experience with them?
Well, they've been around for, like 18 years.
Long time.
They've been they've been playing music before I was playing music, and in fact, I saw them play before I started playing bass. So they actually inspired me at one point.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it's crazy, huh? And it was the same lineup, just a different bass player, obviously. But I've known of the band since then, is so it's been a long time that I've known of the band. And they were touring back then nationally, and so I was really impressed that there was a all female band, because back then all female bands weren't a thing. Tribute band, there weren't a lot of tribute bands back then either. Was touring, and I'd never really heard of a touring tribute band, especially all female touring tribute band. It just was very, very, very new. And so I was very impressed and they sounded great. They sounded really, really great. And they were all just very great, like their stage presence, they all wore white. It seemed magical to me at the time. And so now playing and seeing kind of their cult following, it's really amazing. I mean, I see all. I mean, I meet people all the time that are like, "Oh, this is my seventh time seeing you," or I see people that are like, "Oh, I didn't even want to come see you, but my friend made me come see you. I'm so glad that I did." There are fans that like are are insane fans that would never come to the show ever and were against it, and then they came to the show one time and now they're like insane, like buying us bottles of Dom Perignon kind of
Well,
craziness.
just like just like the Grateful Dead, which no offense is a cult. Same thing
Oh,
like
yeah.
the Led Zeppelin group
Yeah.
fan base. No offense, they're a
Yeah.
cult too. They are. They're
Mm.
cults.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the biggest thing, like I didn't know this, and Carissa like brought this up. They're insane. Like the Led Zeppelin, like they to the point, like even the band members of Led Zeppelin. I remember reading the story where I think Jack Black basically like they had a when they were doing Stonebrain, Schoolhouse Rock.
School of
Yeah,
Rock?
School Rock. Yes, when
Yeah.
they were doing that movie, what he did was they did a clip and they had an audience that came in and he basically played his guitar and
Mhm.
did this like performance begging them so he can be able to use the music. Like that is crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
that's
But
awesome.
to have that, like seriously, to have fans come from Led Zeppelin and hear something like that and be
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Whoa.
it's well, so there's nothing like hearing it live, right? You don't get to hear it live
Yeah.
from them. So to hear it done live, it has to be good or people are just not. I mean,
They're not coming back.
they're gonna come to have a beer, but you're not gonna have people that are like following you around the country, you know? And we have people that literally follow us around the country.
Oh
Like if they can get
wow.
to a show, they'll go to a show.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's great though because you do want that, to have longevity in a career like this. There's a lot of stigma and weirdness around tribute bands, right? And there's a difference between cover bands and tribute bands, right? There's a lot of people that are like, "Oh, it's a cover band." It's like, "No, we don't play covers. We play a tribute to one artist," right? But then you have a lot of these tribute bands who try to mimic the original band, and it can be quite laughable at times, because it's almost like, well, I want to hear the music. I don't want to see the antics so much.
Well,
It just depends on what you're doing.
speaking of cover bands, I went to a Dave Matthews tribute cover band, and the reason is because Dave Matthews, they have gone insane with ticket prices. Like they're like starting at $500, so most people can't afford it.
Yeah,
So basically, the tribute band is
yeah,
actually, I personally, is better than Dave Matthews.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
and it's like $5 or $10 or $15. So everybody
yeah,
just goes to the
yeah,
the
yeah, and that's
tribute.
well, can you imagine Led Zeppelin coming out with a concert, how expensive those tickets would be?
Oh my God, it would be over $1,000.
Yeah,
Way worse.
so you can't actually, and that's another good point though, is because if you can still go see the band for a a a reasonable price, there shouldn't really be that much, or there shouldn't really be a tribute of it, I don't think, I mean, do what
Eh.
you want, do what you want, I don't care, like, anybody can go make whatever band they want, but I'm just saying, like, if it's that accessible, you know, and they're
Well, there
touring.
some great examples could be like the Beatles, so a Beatles cover band because the
Well, the
first of all,
Beatles
John,
won't, yeah.
yeah, I mean, John is dead, George is
Mhm.
dead,
Mhm.
Ringo and Paul is, and no
Yeah.
offense, but Ringo and Paul is not Paul and John.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 So that kind of cover band I get
Yeah,
totally. Um, but moving on with cover bands, like because you're in a band yourself, and I mean, you kind of we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. You said you've been in other bands
yeah, I've been
besides
in a lot of bands.
a lot of bands. Too many to
Yeah.
count on your fingers?
Well, no, no, I mean, I had longevity in all of these bands, but
Oh, great.
I mean, they were I was taught when I first started playing in bands to play with as many people as possible and to play with better people than you. I think those were two
Okay.
things of advice that, really helped me. So I kind of threw myself into the fire with a lot of things. And when I left my first band, I formed another band with a girl from Australia. Talking about international people still.
Oh yeah, very
so
international.
her and I had a band in Dallas, two girls, and we had two guys as well. And it was called Honey, and it did really well in the Dallas scene. And then the band split up, and I went on to play in a few cover bands. And so the first one I played in, actually did a lot of touring in the South, and then we went to Mexico, and um, we've played a lot of shows, doing all old like blues and rock and roll, classic rock
Oh, I
standards
love
and
that
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah, we
The
play in
King.
casinos. Yeah, we
Yeah.
were we're like a casino band
Oh, I love
playing at
that.
like the WinStar World Casino, which is like the largest casino or whatever. And so we were this every like once a month we'd play like a whole weekend up there, and it was awesome. We had people that would come just to see the show, and it was really cool. And then I ended up leaving that, and I played with a loop artist for a while,
Ooh.
which was really cool
They're
because
really fascinating.
yeah.
I I once met a loop artist. I don't understand how their brain works, to be honest with you. That's the thing that confuses me the most.
Well, I can kind of break it down for you because I do a little bit of
Oh,
looping and stuff. So
yeah.
are you so you're a musician, right? Do you play drums at all?
No, so I only play guitar, but
Okay.
I do know how to do editing, of course, on software and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
my ability of looping is very limited.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like looping with a pedal, right?
I can't do it manually, but I can
Yeah.
do it, for example, with either via a keyboard, a switchboard,
Mm.
or via a soundboard. Like,
Yeah,
one of those like old school ones. Yeah.
yeah. Well, if you're doing it manually, it's like you just have to lay down the beat first, right?
Yeah.
Like the drums, and so you have to find the kick pattern, and then you have to find your snare pattern, and then you have to find your hi-hat pattern. And once you have that going as your loop, you can start building on top of it to make it sound really big, right? But you can also just do the kick and snare as well. It just depends on what you want to do, but you really need to like know drums a little bit to.
Oh yeah. I mean, like one of my favorite. This is not drum system, but one of my favorite systems is an 808 because a lot of
Mhm.
like great punk songs and stuff have that like.
Yeah, all of the 808 stuff was, yeah, that was all old school
I love it
sounds.
though.
Yeah, it's great. But no, I mean, I'm like you can do it on your guitar. He would do it on his acoustic. So he would do like a kick pattern and then like a scratch for like the snare, and then like
Hmm.
more scratches for the hi-hat. And so he'd build this these drums out of just percussion on his acoustic guitar. And then I would
Wow.
play I would play bass and he would play guitar and sing over the top of it.
But he would do the
And
guitar with basically a drum set.
yeah, it would be a drum set from guitars. And so when I do looping, I do kind of the same thing, just
Oh
like you're
wow.
hitting the guitar body for like a kick, and you're doing like a loud, just muted.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Okay.
yeah. And so it just builds this really nice foundation. And then it essentially works on songs that you don't have to go back and forth between chorus and verse that have different chords. Like if it's a full chord pattern, like the same chord pattern, it works the best because you can lay down the chords on the guitar as well. And then you just have that whole thing looping. And then you can do like a bass on top of it or whatever.
One of my favorite, I think it's called Electric Sound House. Oh my god, what do you know what I'm referring to?
No, no.
Ugh, God. Okay, give me a second. Hold on, I gotta find out who this is. Not is it Boston? Maybe there was. They did it with a bass. So I
Mhm,
know exactly what you're talking about, where they created a progression where they did a hard tempo. So basically, it started with the E chord, so
mhm.
strong like snare from there, all the way down from like a low E to a high E, and there was
Yeah,
like an echo. So it was like a
yeah.
vibration of that. And I think they used brain. I swear to Jesus Christ, this is not the time to fuck up. This thing,
Capo.
exactly, and you can like you can hear the difference, but it was
Yeah.
a loop. But it you could hear the pattern was like like da 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 dun dun da 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 dun dun da, and it worked well on top of it. Uh,
Mhm,
I just it's so cool on how you're able to do that.
mhm.
Like even realize I'm able to do that, and it's like oh my god, that's a really great beat, great
Yeah.
tempo, great sound. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
Do,
yeah, yeah.
do, 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 do.
Yeah, it just depends on what you're doing. I mean, as long as you can keep, you know, as you're singing to that beat, without too much deviation.
Is that how you create like for example like when you're making your songs? Is
Mhm.
that what you're doing? You're creating the lyrics to go with the chords, like the chord progression throughout the song?
Just depends, and it depends on what projects,
Ooh, okay.
like because in this project with Dead Groove, I've kind of well, at least for this record, I've let Fred and Caesar kind of work that out because I don't speak Spanish and Caesar doesn't speak English, and Fred's bilingual, but it's really hard to communicate
So it's just the
in
three of
certain
you. It's
ways.
just the three of you.
Yeah, the trio, power trio. So as far as Caesar, he's amazing at coming up with riffs, and Fred um, is really good about making sure that the riffs work well with the arrangement. Because you really have to work your
In
arrangements out with your
harmony.
drummer. Yeah, yeah. Well, the harmony comes kind of later, but it's more
Okay.
the rhythmic for him because you have to make sure the arrangements could flow well, right? Because you might think, oh, well, this part will just go right into this part, and the drummer can't do it. It's like, no, we've got to do some kind of like fill in or some kind of like, you know. So it's always best to kind of work on that at first. So what they'll do is they'll get something almost, finished to a point where they, want me to start working on lyrics and melodies and stuff. And so I'll go in and I'll listen to the song, the track over and over and over, and it's kind of see what pops out at me as far as like melody. A lot of times it's not about the lyrics; it's about the melody and how the melody will fit in with the music. The lyrics can come after. You
Yeah, I
don't have
feel
to
I feel like you did that with 69 Stingray. Like we've
totally,
talked about this. Yeah.
totally.
Because I said like I have a Mustang convertible.
Hmm.
And you were saying like this song was made to be played in a it was made it feels like it was a song that was made to be in an open convertible like pony car like a Camaro, a Road Runner,
Yeah.
um Barracuda.
Yeah,
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 Barracuda.
yeah. Whatever your favorite car is.
But you could definitely hear that. I can see that creative process and flow where you're hearing the riff, the sound, and then creating the lyrics to flow with it. But I totally get where it's not always necessarily about the lyrics. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
about the sound. Maybe it's about the
Yeah,
lyrics. Maybe it's more about the lyrics. But
yeah.
you feel that when you're hearing it.
Yeah, it's more about how driving can this song be,
Ooh, yeah, that's powerful.
how can you make it, appeal to somebody who's not really listening, you know? I want it to be something people can dance to or they wanna drive fast to. I don't really wanna slow dance, you know? I'm not here to tell you about my feelings.
Feelings.
Yeah. I wanna drive fast cars and, yeah, make
you know,
deals with the devil.
I love like there's been a recent trend. I get these all the time, like on YouTube and TikTok, of
Yeah,
Kurt Cobain. People just posting like, "You see, Kurt Cobain didn't care," and I'm just like, "Bro, it was the '90s. No one cared.
nobody
Like,
cares.
you wreck someone's car, ugh, get another one. What do you want from me?"
Yeah,
It's just
yeah,
like it. It's just, it's just so strange where people don't I now I understand why you want to do it where like if somebody's not listening.
mhm.
The same way where the greatest way to hear a great song is in a trashy radio, in a garbage car, like a Chrysler
Yeah,
PT
but still
Cruiser, preferably.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, if it still sounds great and you can still rock and roll to it, like, if you can still,
Yeah.
like, feel it, it's a great song, you know? It's all about the groove, right?
Exactly. I mean, I'm gonna be questioning the driver that has a convertible like Chrysler PT Cruiser that's playing like Book of the Dead. I'm just like, okay, all right, okay.
Maybe they've already listened to 69 Stingray. At the end of
Oh, and they're
the
ready up to the Book of the Dead.
yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah.
So you keep on saying like you've said that you're from the South, and I mean I kind of technically live in the South, but Florida's kind of the
Yeah,
dick of the United
you're
States. Yeah.
it is.
So
The
another
dick of the
breed.
United States. It's true.
But you've probably, the environment that you've been, the people that you've been around growing up as a kid is probably added a lot to who you are as an artist today.
Mhm.
What are the things like the most memorable to you about like being from the South and coming out of there as an artist?
Well, I mean, you have this kind of cross between blues, rock, and country, right? And I'm at one point in my life, probably maybe for like a year, I don't know. I was really young. I did like country. I liked country music. I can't believe I'm saying that, but yeah.
I
Um,
like country music.
I like old standards, like
I like Dolly Parton.
yeah, or Bonnie Raitt,
Yes.
Hank Williams, that kind of stuff. But we this was when Billy Ray Cyrus was big, and
God.
so yeah,
90s. Listen, I keep on telling you, 90s, different time, very fucked
mhm.
up world. But yeah.
Yeah, we were coming into our own.
Oh, yeah.
Goodness.
Real big.
It's with the wind suits, right? The windbreakers. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. Still a thing, by the way. Still $400. Not kidding.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. You don't remember Patagonia and they're like insanely expensive jackets? Like
Wow.
four, $500. Yeah, they still sell them.
Wow.
They look like the 90s, but they're $500.
Yeah. But yeah, being down in the South, I mean, you had all of those influences, and so I always really liked rock and roll music, and I always really liked, things that were heavier or had just like a good pace to them. So I feel like in my music, that's kind of what I want to portray as well, is like nicely paced songs. They either have a really deep groove or they have a really good rock and roll feel to them.
What is your what is your song process? Like when you every single person that writes, in a way, it's kind of like poetry, many ways. But everyone has their own style of how they write. What do you feel your style of writing is?
Feel it, the style of writing, or or like
How
the
you write
process.
as a person, like when you're writing a song, you're writing it with your own words, right? So what is your view? What is coming into you when you create a song? Because again, you as an artist are creating this music so people can hear it, and it's from your own voice.
Mhm. Well, I definitely like things to be authentic, but
Okay.
I also like things to be interesting, and I don't really like the whole, low hanging fruit where, it's anybody can write a love song. you know, I
So
just
many.
there's
So
so many.
many.
Yeah. I mean, not that love isn't the biggest motivator of everything, in the world, but it just seems like I could be a little bit more creative than that, and I like to push my limits, especially with this project. Fred and I, we met right before the pandemic, and we started dating. Our first date was a jam session. This like 4-hour jam session, drum and bass, and it was awesome. So it was like we really connected as artists, and eventually, made this band. But our I don't want to insult him by writing about past relationships either, or things that maybe I shouldn't be writing about. Being in a relationship with your drummer.
You don't have to
So,
necessarily have to write about those things. Like take Jim Croce for example. He
mhm.
wrote about insane, like Derby. He wrote a song about a Derby queen, like rolling roller
Yeah,
derby queen, like
yeah,
stupid shit. Like what the
yeah,
fuck?
yeah, yeah.
But who cares? It's fun.
Mhm. Yeah,
It doesn't like you said, it doesn't have to be a love song. It doesn't have to be about you don't have to be Taylor Swift every single time when you make a song.
yeah, 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 yeah. But I think that kind of helps to branch out with my creative writing as well.
Yeah. Yes.
And so when we were writing these songs, Maverick actually is the first song that we started working on. Maverick is the first song that I wrote when I moved to California, and it was about it was basically a big old middle finger to your past,
Oh wow.
like a big fuck you, I'm out of here. I don't know how, where what it's like where you're from, but where I'm from, these little small towns you don't really get out of, you know? And being in Dallas was still kind of a small town because I'm still in the South. I'm still in Texas. I've been there my whole life, right? So I wanted to move to California and just do music. I wanted to stop doing hair and I wanted to get away from some of the people that I was had to be associated with. And so I just took off. And then when I got out here, I wrote Maverick. And then that song ended up, we redid it because it was like a blues acoustic song, and Caesar made it into a rock and roll song, hard rock song. And so that's kind of where we sparked a little bit more of like, okay, this is going to be good, right? So then Caesar gave us a track, the track for Book of the Dead. And I didn't really know what I wanted to write on that because it was very different from, if you hear Maverick and hear the Book of the Dead, they're very different. Maverick
I
is
haven't heard
definitely
Maverick yet.
Maverick is definitely blues. Like somebody said the other day, it was like I can't remember what they said, but it's like very bluesy. It comes from blues roots, blues progression. And then Book of the Dead is more like progressive almost. It has riffs.
I mean, like
It's not
prog
this,
rock?
yeah, kind of like prog rock. Like
Okay.
like you basically have like a chord progression, like blues chord progressions, or some kind of chord progressions versus riffs, right? So you're a musician, you get this.
Of
So
course, yeah.
this was more of a riffy kind of song, and so I was like, okay, so this is going to be different than what I'm.
Da-na-na-na,
Yeah,
da,
yeah, yeah. So
da-na-na-na. Sorry.
it's okay. So yeah, I just kind of had to figure out what I wanted to write about. But I asked Fred. I said, What do you want this song to be about? What do you think we should write about?" And he said, "The Book of the Dead," because we had been watching a lot of like Ancient Aliens and stuff like that lately, and we thought, okay, we've been into the Book of the Dead. So I went online and I'd already, learned a little bit about it, but then I needed to learn facts and stuff. And so I just started writing this whole thing for the Book of the Dead. And then the Book of the Dead came out, and we really, that was a really cool song. Feel like that was our Kashmir at that point, like
Interesting.
this was how, this is our sound. This is our sound. This is our, in every shape, way, and form is the Book of the Dead, because you've got insane riffs and solos from Caesar. You've got great drumming from Fred. You've got my vocals and bass parts on top, and it's just, I feel like that's our Kashmir.
I think each band has their spark, like you
Mhm.
said, their Cashmere. Oh my
Yeah.
god, I love that. It's like Cashmere's, oh my god, Cashmere's,
Well, like, yeah, so I don't know if you know this, but they've it's been noted in many magazines and interviews that Led Zeppelin felt like Kashmir was their song that really brought every single one of
really?
yeah, that's like, if you want to say what is Led Zeppelin, Kashmir is their song.
Personally, I have to
Yeah.
disagree.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
th
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, this is gonna be so cliche, I'm sorry, Immigration Song.
Yeah, immigration. Yeah,
For me,
immigrant
it's
song.
because of the progression and the riffs in the
Yeah.
song, there's nothing, it's just, it's unworldly, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I I think it's so cool that you were able to create, a song Maverick, and then be able to find the voice,
Mhm.
be able to find the sound
Yeah.
through Book of the
There's
Dead.
another there's another thing, as we were talking before about, finding my voice, like, that was another step in finding my voice, because not only, I mean, I like my first record that I did. I think that I could have been coached a little bit more on my own, but that was just me being authentic, right? Now with Caesar, he's not even in Peru. He's known as a guitar player, but he's known more for being a vocal coach. He's a vocal coach on like The Voice Peru and all these huge every one of the big vocal programs that are in Peru right now, he's one of their coaches. So
Oh
he's like,
wow.
yeah, he's insane. So he killed me in the vocal booth. No, he really did bring it out of me. I mean, I'm very proud of my vocals on this record, and a lot of it has to do with Caesar.
And it's amazing because the two of you don't speak the same language.
No,
And
no,
amazing.
but I understand when he wanted more. One more time, uno más. I understand that.
It's amazing when you're able to make those friendships, especially when somebody is from a different culture, a different place. I love those friendships
Yeah,
because you're dealing with somebody that if you try to explain to them what your childhood or like things that you're used to, they're like, ¿Qué? ¿Qué pasó?
yeah.
They're like, what? They don't understand. They don't understand.
Uh-uh. No, it's interesting, having to work with him and his brother. His brother knows a bit more English. His wife is really fluent. Uh, so and of course Fred is too. So it's not like it was too difficult. But as far as when we were building the songs, and Fred and I are here in California, and Caesar's in Peru, as it is now still. You know, sending tracks back and forth, sending ideas back and forth, being on Zoom calls for hours and hours, talking about different parts and really trying to put things together in two different countries. And if you look at the two videos that are out, the first two videos we put out for Maverick and the Book of the Dead, they're actually filmed in two different countries too. We filmed here in the US, and he filmed there in Peru, and then we put them together. So it'll work.
Wow.
There's a will, there's a way.
Little bit of ingenuity over there,
Yeah.
might I say.
Yeah, and if you watch the Book of the Dead video, it's really interesting because we had to break into a rock quarry to film.
You broke into a rock.
Yeah,
All right. Okay.
we
Officially
really did.
rock stars. Yep. Breaking into
Yeah.
place.
Well, we knocked on all the doors and
Oh,
nobody was
yeah.
home, and it was
Yeah.
open.
Yeah. Exactly. And it was wanting. It was
It
wanting
wa
for a
was
music
really
video.
it was wanting us to do a music video. We had made sure we didn't leave anything behind, and also when Fred put his drums in the middle of all these rocks, like these big pyramids of rocks, you couldn't hear the drums very far because they were bouncing off the rocks back into the little parts. So nobody could hear us even if they were around. It was like perfect.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and we had a drone, and so the drone was flying, and we did it right as sunset, and so we got it all the footage. And then Caesar went to a place very similar down in Peru and did his parts, and so we just edited
Slice them
them.
together.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing what you can do with
Crazy.
a computer.
I mean, just honestly, just the sheer advancement of technology, especially like you have so many abilities now as an artist. Go on your computer, there's audio effects, synthesizers, vocalizers, I mean, everything is at your fingertips, like right in front of you. And I really think you've really nailed it. I think you really found a way to really make it work. Do you feel that it's a hard thing to accomplish? Or you think that it was pretty easy for you? It wasn't that big of a deal?
I mean, it's just another band for me, like
Another project, like you
yeah,
said.
another project. Yeah, and we started this during the pandemic, so everybody was, you know, at home. So it's not like we had to go anywhere and try to work it out with a guitar player, everybody was at home. We were all just passing time, and as far as like being on deadlines, I think that's the hardest part for me, but it's the most helpful, even though I struggle through them.
Oh,
But,
girl, everyone does. Please.
know.
Oh shit, I got only
So
like 2 hours left. Oh no.
so, putting it together was, just we wanted to try first, and I think there's a lot to be said about that because, you don't know what you're gonna do unless you try, and some people try and they try to do, like, 10 songs. We're gonna do 10 songs, but we just said, "Let's do 2. Let's do this one that Holly has and this one that Caesar has, and let's try to make them what we can," And, so we came out with the sound of Dead Groove, and, after we put the songs out and they did really well, we shot the videos, and after those did really well, we got signed to a record label, so that that in itself, I mean, is just, you know, trying and trying not to fail, you know? It's hard in this industry, but it's not hard for those who, like, actually understand how it works and have the
Exactly.
money. There's a lot of money involved, that's the only
Oh,
problem.
a lot of green.
That's the problem, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you think everything's free, but to get on those free platforms to push your music is money, you know?
Yeah.
So
Nothing comes I don't think anything in life comes for free, but I don't think it's hard work that leads to success, to be honest. Like Carissa, which is my co-host for American Groove, she said this where you can work as hard as you want, but it doesn't mean you're going to be successful. I
mm-mm.
think what makes you successful is, are you passionate about what you're doing? Why are you doing it? Like, you doing it for other people? Why? What about yourself? Got to think about that sometimes.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you really have to think about why you're doing it. And so I was doing this band because I came to California to be in bands and to start another band and to be musical.
Start
And
over.
so yeah, exactly. I was starting over. I was leading my own way. And so when I got out here, I mean it was only a few months and then the pandemic hit. So that sucked. But, the light at the end of the tunnel is that I was living with one of the best drummers ever, and we wanted to do something musically anyways, and so we just found the avenue that worked for us, and we haven't stopped, trying to push it since. And, we're about to do our first big tour, so it's where we
Pretty
wanted to be.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's your when is your tour start?
This tour starts in August.
Ooh.
And we're basically, it's not consecutive, but it's till the end of the year. We're just pushing the record. So most of these shows we're headlining. Some of them we are sharing the bill with, like in the northwest. I'm sorry, northeast. Since we're a new band and we're just getting out there. We have a established band out there that we're going to be doing some shows with called Militia Vox, and she's a powerhouse in her own right. I haven't seen her live performance except for on YouTube, but she sometimes has a fire breathing horn section.
Okay.
So it's pretty crazy.
Oh my
But
god.
we're gonna be at the cutting room with her, so I'm kind of like, I wonder if they can do that at the cutting room because there's so many curtains.
Were
But
you coming out to in the Northeast?
we're going to the cutting room, and then we're also going to be at Jimmy's up in New Jersey. And then we're trying to get which we have been trying so hard to get a Baltimore and a Philadelphia show, and nobody is responding. So if we can get that before we head on out there, that'd be great.
What about Florida?
What about Florida? Well, yeah, my parents just moved there, so they obviously want us to come out
Oh,
there.
I want you to come out here. I would show up.
That's awesome. So I was thinking about doing Florida in December. But we have family coming in, so I don't know if that's going to work. So it might be sometime next year, early next year.
Well, for me and for any listeners out here that is from Florida, I think a lot of us are definitely going to be looking forward because being genuine, being unique, having your groove, there you go, is really cool. And being able to tour and be able to show that art and craft and your project with others. I want to see this live. I want to see it live. I
Yeah.
want to, be in that experience, be in that crowd when Book of the Dead. Oh,
Yeah, it's so much better live, everything's better live. We have
get everybody
tons of
pumped.
Yeah, yeah. We have tons of records. I listen to music on YouTube all day long, but, there's nothing like going to a live show and experiencing it, you know?
It's a different environment. I feel like you're surrounded by people. So there's just like the raw, like everybody's just excited and everybody's happy. And like you're there and you're on your bass guitar and like, oh shit. Like there you're just a sea. But I think that ambiance of people and the music playing and just the happiness and the cheering, it adds another element. I feel this is why also like with comedy, you got to be able to see it live. Stop watching YouTube shorts. I know they're
Yeah,
great, but go see a live comedy show, promise you. Same
yeah,
thing with the rock band, like see it live for
yeah,
once.
yeah. Well, I mean, with comedy, if you have, like, a lot of amateurs, sometimes it's hard to watch live.
Oh my god, I know. You're like,
My 2 of my members of my, Zeppelin band, they went to a comedy show this past weekend just to get out of the house, just to do something. They live in San Francisco, and they thought that they picked a really good show because this lady was on tour and had all these supporting acts and stuff, and apparently she was the worst one, and all of them were very amateur, and there was only, like, 2 or 3 jokes that stood out, and it's like, damn. And I think that's also, I mean, a lot of people get that in like bands, if you want to go to a local show and you don't know these bands very well and they're not very successful, you could like, go out and none of the music is good. I don't know.
yeah,
So
no,
it
I
becomes
know.
more of just an experience at that point.
It's an experience you don't want to remember.
Yeah, yeah, it's a socializing event.
Well, it's weird though because these are people that have been doing it for years. We're talking like 20, 30, and I just like, don't you realize there's a problem Does anybody here notice there's an issue? I mean, you've been doing this for like 30 years and
No,
you're
they're
still at Bailey's. Like
still
still at
trying.
Bailey's.
They're still trying.
I know.
Sometimes it's whatever pays, to be honest. That's why you
Oof.
see all these tribute bands now, is because tribute bands are getting paid. Because people know the music, there's enough music to have a tribute of them, and that's why, I mean, people go to see cover bands well, they don't actually go see cover bands. The cover bands are usually booked by venues that just want a cover band, right? And you're going to the venue, like a bar, for the experience of hanging out with your friends and hearing some music that and hopefully the band is good. And then when you go to a tribute show, you're actually like wanting to hear the music of your favorite artists that can be done well enough. And the problem, the other, like the issue with tribute bands though, is if you have a tribute band that's just kind of phoning it in, that sucks. But if you have a tribute band that like is present and is really making it a great show, and are good musicians, then that's amazing.
It is. But I think it also can be very limiting for an artist because like you're doing the work that somebody already did.
Right, but you have to remember that 95% of musicians out there are already playing other people's music.
Damn.
They are. There's not a lot of people out there with their original music right now. You
It
know,
doesn't pay. Yeah,
yeah.
I
Look
hear
at
you.
look look at the band Ghost, for instance. Do you know about Ghost and what happened with Ghost?
A little. I had a coworker that was into it. She told me a little bit, but I'm not 100% familiar.
So the guy from Ghost, I don't really like the music actually. I never really have. I like their intros, and then all of a sudden when he starts singing, like it's just I'm done. But I found out recently that his original members, he made them wear costumes so nobody would know who they were. They also signed agreements that they had no rights to the music. So he ended up firing all of them and got away with it because they signed off on it. They had no idea that that's what they were doing. He got a whole new group of musicians that aren't the original musicians, and they play his songs. So the whole band is just one guy with original music.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And you see that all everywhere. Everywhere. I mean, you see some
Jesus.
bands that are still together, like Aerosmith, most of
Eh,
AC/DC, but like
ACD,
very
ACDC's been doing really good for themselves. I mean, especially with his
well,
age.
yeah. Well, Malcolm passed, and they took a little break for a while because of what's his name's what's his name? I'm high too. So, anyways, they took a break because
Stone to the
of
bone.
yeah. It's like I just keep hearing like seeing Bon Scott. I'm like Bon Scott has not been in the band for a long time. Anyways,
Well,
so
I think it's also because like a lot of these bands are much older, but I don't know. I think this is the reason why we're having this conversation today. Is I love new music. I love music that's inspired from the old,
mhm.
and like you said, I mean, 95% of music has already been used, so you might
Well,
as well.
you think of Led Zeppelin, like most of their songs were from other people's music. They ripped off a lot of people's music. Like When the Levee Breaks, you know.
I got to be very careful
Yeah.
because Carissa's a Led Zeppelin fan.
Oh, no, no, I play in a Zeppelin tribute. I mean, I play in a very
I know.
well-known Zeppelin tribute, but it is. I mean, it's a fact.
No, I know it is, but the thing that the thing that triggers me the most is when you take even before then, like Elvis.
He sang a lot of covers too.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this, and I don't care. Elvis was a white blues rockabilly singer. They basically washed away the fact of it was supposed to be a black man because that's the black community was the one that created that culture, and they replaced it with a white person so that they were able to make people comfortable. And that what
Yeah.
was Elvis. Elvis was the first. He was the first of his kind. There was no other person before Elvis.
Mhm. But there were though, they were black.
Yeah, and they weren't
And
in the public. They weren't in television. They
that's
weren't.
why
Yeah,
well, that's why they were like, "Oh, a white guy like this shaking his hips like that, dancing like that." It was a big, big deal, to
yeah.
see this white man up there doing that. But they did have, I mean, a lot of the entertainment was black people. You had these late night shows on black and white TV, the old, long, long time ago TV shows. And a lot of these artists were black, the singers and stuff.
You
But
know what's
to, to bring
you,
it into like an entertainment culture, yeah, that was his role.
and it kind of trickles down throughout music culture. There's always a sacrifice that's made for progression in a
Hmm.
way.
Hmm.
And I just think that at this point, with everything that we know and that we have, there's no excuse to not be creative with music. I
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah, yeah, if you really wanna do it.
If you
If you really wanna
exactly,
do it,
yes.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, you can do anything. I mean, look at how popular the, ukulele is now, you know what I mean?
It's
Like,
so
you didn't
fun. I want to play one.
right?
I want
Yeah,
to play one.
my dad bought me one, it's in Florida,
Oh,
but I haven't really played it yet, but, just how popular that became after this was, like, this kind of this shift in whatever our music culture was having at the time with these singer songwriters. I think a big part of that was the Hawaiian guy, the big Hawaiian guy that sang Over
Uh,
the Rainbow.
yeah, Israel Kamaka.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, wait, I can't say his last name. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah,
It's too
it's okay.
long.
I
It's
don't even know
too
what it
long.
is. That guy. Yeah.
That guy.
Then all of a sudden, everybody wanted to play ukulele, and so you have these cultural shifts that kind of bring about these things where it's inspiring to a certain group of people, and all of a sudden it becomes this big thing. It's pretty cool though. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's really beautiful because it really, again, we're able to see those shifts and able to learn from those. And
Mhm.
you're able to listen to them because you can listen to
Yeah.
all kinds of music on like Spotify and YouTube and wherever. And especially
Mhm.
what you're doing with this project with. So let me ask you this before we leave off. What is something you want to leave off as an artist? For anyone that's listening that maybe possibly is an artist or maybe inspiring to be one, what
Mhm.
would be something that you tell somebody like that?
Well, I think first enjoy what you're doing. Don't ever make it to where you don't enjoy it. I mean, you do have to cut your teeth. You do have to maybe play in a band that you don't really want to play with just so you can get better. But always know that if somebody's giving you criticism, just don't even listen to it, because you know who you are, and you know where you've been, you know what you're going to become. And so just keep going. But also, you have to work really hard at promoting yourself, and you have to be your biggest fan, and I think that's important.
Yeah, it's really powerful, and I really love that because it's true and it's realistic. It's being honest to yourself. Like this is what you have to be able to be successful for yourself.
Mhm.
Let me ask you something, Holly. If anybody wants to find like your work, what you've been doing with Dead Groove, where can they find this stuff on like social media and shit? Yeah.
Yeah, we have websites, deadgrooveband.com. Then I have a website, hollywestmusic.com. And then all of our social medias are at Dead Groove Band.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
we have for the record, we have the CD right now.
Ooh.
But we
Do you
have
have
a
a vinyl
record.
record?
We have pre sales coming out July
Let me know,
28th. Sure we'll do.
please. Yes, I have
It's
a
gonna
like.
be it's gonna be a gold record. It's gonna be so cool.
I love those. I love like color drip records. Like I
Yeah,
have a purple one, I have a green one, I have a yellow. Oh my god, they're so fun. Just
yeah,
watching them like
yeah,
just.
yeah, yeah. It's gonna be great.
Um, but anyway, be sure to check out Holly and Dead Groove Band. I mean, come on, when you get to be able to be rock and roll in your bathrobe, and be like, yeah, listen to 69 Cigarette, Book of
That's
the
right.
Dead. So be sure to
That's
check that
right.
out.
Yeah. Drive fast.
Yeah. And if you like what you like, be sure to like and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Lost in the Groove Pod. So, with that, catch you on the next one. Stay groovy. Boy.